Building and pest inspections can be super scary, and the reports can be written to scare the absolute bejeebers out of you, but they can also be extremely useful tools for negotiating items that you want fixed on a property or a price reduction on a property after you've already agreed to a price. So this is one of the secret inside things that sophisticated investors use to save themselves extra money after they've agreed on purchase price. And I'm going to give you some examples at the end of this of how I've used this exact strategy to save myself $10,000 on one property and $37,000 on the purchase price of another. So the very first thing you do is, in your contract, regardless of which state in Australia, when you're putting your offer in writing to the agent, you ask for a 21-day building and pest or a 14-day building and pest clause. Now, the reason you need that amount of time is to negotiate the right outcome and organize what you need to organize to get yourself in the best position to get that price reduction you're chasing. So after you've bought the property, you organize your building and pest inspector to go into the property as soon as possible, definitely within the first 7 days of buying the property. Now, I realize not every state in Australia, they're gonna love you putting a building and pest clause into the contract that long, but your job is to negotiate what works best for you and to give them certainty that you are seriously interested in the property as well. So you get your report back, let's say they go in and do the inspection and they give you that report that afternoon or a couple of days after. Then you review that report and you also get your solicitor to review that report. And what both of you do is write down a list of notes of the things that are most meaningful in that report that are either going to cost you money in the short term or money over the longer term, and you identify a list of priorities in terms of those issues. Now, as I said, most building and pest reports could probably be 2 pages long if there wasn't for all of the liability in Australia. Unfortunately, because of that liability, they can be 70 to 100 pages long. Don't get overwhelmed by that. Review the document properly, because if you can take an hour to review it properly and it can save you $1,000 to $30,000, then it is a great use of your personal time. Now, you and your solicitor come together, and then what you do with that combined list of opportunities in the property to negotiate items to be fixed or a price reduction is you call your building and pest inspector and you say, look, I don't know much about this, which is the truth. You're not a building and pest inspector. And you say, if this was your investment property, which items do you think are going to need to be fixed in the next 12 months? And what are the major issues, as well as what types of costs am I going to be up to over the next 3 to 5 years? And there's plenty of things that they should be looking at. Big items such as damages to the slab or the brickwork or the roof or the tiling or the piers underneath the property. And then there can be minor options like minor issues, like a dishwasher being broken, like some tiles cracked, like some silicone missing, and all those little things, fans not working. But you want a comprehensive list from yourself, from the solicitor, as well as from the building and pest inspector. And then what you do is you identify that list and you get the building and pest inspector, if they can, to give you an idea of exactly how much it's going to cost to fix each of those things. Alternatively, you go to a builder and get that builder to price all of those different items for you. And the reason you want it in writing in terms of what it's going to cost is because it has been written by somebody else that isn't you, that isn't the agent, that isn't your solicitor, and it gives you credibility when negotiating. So after you've identified the issues, talk to your solicitor and reviewed it yourself, as well as talk to the building and pest inspector and have prices to fix the issues, which might take you 3 or 4 days to put together that list. It's now time to start the negotiation process. And the reason this is so important, and so many people get a result with this, because 50% of the time this is going to work for you, based on my experience of buying over 600 properties now for our clients, is our experience of buying over 600 properties for our clients is that if you have read Power Negotiations by Roger Dawson, you'd understand this. The most susceptible time for somebody to give you a price discount or a concession during a negotiation process is after that person already feels the negotiation is over or the sale has been made. So this is a very, very great opportunity for you guys to save yourself some money. It's also a dangerous place when you're selling a property or you're a real estate agent, because you think as a real estate agent, you've locked in the price, you've done your job, you've got the contract and everything's going well, you've already cashed that check in your mind in the bank for your commission you're going to make, or you're selling the property, you've sold the property, you've got your contract, you've gone through all the shit of having to find a real estate agent, listen to the bullshit that they tell you every single week for the period of time it takes you to sell it, organize marketing, you know, finally get that offer that makes sense for you financially and for your family or whoever it is that you're owning the property with, and then all of a sudden you're committed, you've moved on as well mentally, and then somebody asks you for a slight concession, and that concession will be to either fix the issues or to give you a price reduction on the purchase of that property. And because they're so deep into it and because they're already fatigued and already moved past the transaction or the negotiation, they're susceptible to just go, just give them that, because they're going to walk away and then we're going to have to go find somebody else, or that new person coming through is also going to find the same issues and ask for the same thing. So it is a great opportunity for you as a buyer and a very dangerous position for the seller and the real estate agent to be, because the power is now in your hands and you can walk away if the property doesn't make sense for you or they're not prepared to play ball. Although you probably bought the property knowing that there's those issues, it's really more of a negotiation tactic than anything else. So you've got your list, you give it to the solicitor. You might give the real estate agent a call as well that sold the property and just say, "G'day, just wanted to let you know we've identified some issues in the building and pest. We're sending the building and pest inspection through with the list of issues and the quotes to resolve those issues. We're giving you two options. One is to fix that list of issues with qualified trades. The second is to give us to a price reduction." Now, because you've sent through such a significant list of issues, most people are going to go, "Stuff this, I couldn't be bothered fixing it. Let's negotiate a price reduction." And that's where you get that little snippet of gold, whatever that actually looks like. And the solicitor will be the one formally organising that between both parties, but it's good to give the real estate agent a heads up just so that he's also working to close his client at the same time. Now, as I said, this has worked 50% of the time for me in over 600 transactions and 100% of the time when I've bought properties for myself. So two examples of properties I've bought for myself. One was in a suburb 10 k's from Brisbane CBD in 2016. It was the perfect person to buy from. They'd been living in the property for 30 years. They bought it for 100k and were looking to sell it in the 400s. There was an out-of-area agency representing the property that had picked it up on its rent roll. There was a literally first sale for that agent coming out. The office was about an hour and a half away from the suburb. So a lot of the stars were already aligning for me. The agent had priced it too low because she didn't know the market properly. So I've gone in very, very hard the first day I saw it on realestate.com, wrapped up the contract, and then I've gone to inspect the property the next day because I knew it was a good deal, because you should know the market that well before you buy. And I've walked around the property and just noted a few issues down, and I've let her know the next day that it looks like there's a couple of issues on the property that I'm going to want to fix before we actually settle. So immediately she's gone and set their expectations that that's coming. I've then sat down, reviewed the report, got the quotes, talked to my solicitor about it, and we've been able to negotiate a $10,000 reduction on the price that I was more than happy to pay, which I already thought was below market value, to get the deal wrapped up. Now, because the person selling the property hadn't had much experience with doing this, obviously they didn't see it coming, and just because you're knowledgeable and know these things doesn't mean that 99% of people selling properties in Australia do. So you can use this stuff to your advantage, and you know, the person doesn't have to give you the concession. It's completely at their discretion if they cancel the contract or walk away from you or just put their foot in the sand and say flat out no. So you're not doing anything wrong here. In fact, it's their decision to actually accept those conditions that you're putting forward. The second example of this was my second property that I bought in Sydney. This was in 2011. It was a nice big home. I think it was online for $269,000. I negotiated a price on it of $250,000, and then we got our building and pest inspection back and found out that there was an illegal granny flat out the back of the property that hadn't been council approved, as well as some issues in terms of wiring and stuff that needed to be sorted out. So I basically priced the removal of the granny flat, and then went in hard to negotiate a discount. Now this was at a time in the marketplace where some people were struggling, where businesses were failing, and where people were struggling with jobs and income. So it was an opportunity to negotiate hard back then, where that same opportunity might not be available right now in all markets in Australia. And I actually negotiated the price down to, I think it was 213 grand. So saved myself about $37,000 on what I was more than happy to pay for the property, just using that building and pest report. So get your head around this video, watch it again, take some notes, but it is super simple. Effectively, give yourself the time to negotiate, because you will need that time of 14 to 21 days. Get your building and pest inspection as soon as possible. Write down a summary of the issues, get those issues priced up, let the agent know, and get your solicitor to go into bat hard for you, knowing that if they say no, if you've done your due diligence on the property, it's probably a good one for you anyway, as long as there's no major structural or pest related issues pulled up in the report. So at least this way, you've got a 50-50 chance of saving yourself some extra bucks. So hope you got some value out of this video. I know it's probably a different idea for some of you. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel below, where I put out heaps of insider tips like this each week, and hopefully you can get as knowledgeable as possible as an investor and take advantage of the different little things that you learn over time. So this is a trick that I learned from my father-in-law, but we've used it to buy over $300 million worth of property now in Sydney and Southeast Queensland for our clients. So if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed with buying, just jump over to our website, www.pumpedonproperty.com, and click the free strategy session button, where I'd love to learn who you are and where you're looking to go in the future, and then we can talk about the Australian marketplace. And that's a complimentary session that we offer to everybody on this YouTube channel, or Facebook, or our podcast, so that we can help get you in the right position. And then from the people we talk to, we select 8 of them a month to actually take on as clients and work with. So good luck with everything you're trying to do. Use this little insider tip to your advantage. Have a play with it, and let me know how you actually went in the comment section below if it was effective for you. So good luck investing, guys.